Hello, it is Jay. It is March the 25th, 2022, a dark episode for that day. And on cue, the doodle is barking at something in the backyard. Shira! Yes, just for that touch of realism in my dark videos that are always seem to always take place in the backyard, where my neighbors probably look at me, and if they happen to notice I'm out here talking to my phone, wonder what the hell is this guy doing? Because he does it every single night. At least I'm not in the basement sawing something that's squishy. I promise I'm not. Actually, I can't be in the basement because my mother-in-law lives in the basement. I don't mean like, stuffed mother-in-law. I mean real live, living, proof of life mother-in-law. So, that could be a story. Um, so yes, it has been another day of me being me. Um, yes, it's been another day of me being me. I think on my waffle episode, I might talk about my discomfort with giving the fullness of time a negative review. And I think that kind of shows in the review of I tried to really contextualize this book by Kate Wilhelm, who is a well-known name in science fiction fantasy, and me not liking this work and saying like, well, it's a late work and it's probably not where I should have started her work, but I'm going to talk honestly about the work. And I think I do that. I think if I'm going to make a case for myself, it's I like to talk about what I read. I like to talk about what I read regardless of whether I enjoyed it or not. And sometimes not enjoying something is a good thing to dive into and say, well, what about it that I didn't like? And in that case, it's probably the absence of a counterbalance to the very highly competent protagonist. There isn't a counterbalance to that with the antagonist, and it kind of makes the whole thing kind of go flat, especially instead of kind of having a rising kind of conflict, more complications, there isn't a conflict particularly. There's a small conflict which is easily overcome by the protagonist, and it's like this isn't even long enough to be a novella. It should have been, I guess, a short story, and it would have not been a particularly memorable short story. But perhaps that going again to the idea that, especially for an amateur, you get a lot of expectation, especially if you're an amateur, that you should only be there for appreciation of something. It shouldn't be about not being appreciative of something, I didn't actually appreciate that. That was negative. Or seeing that dwelling on stuff that doesn't work for you is inherently a negative experience, is negative. It's me being complainer. But I honestly look at it as a celebration of literature, of my enjoyment of literature. I want to talk about everything about books, the stuff I love and the stuff I don't like. I was listening to some film critics who are, obviously they're professional film critics. They get paid to give their opinions of whether they like or not like, and they have a little bit more license that way because they are the major movies come out for a week. They're expected to review them, so they don't just review the movies that they like. That would be you'd find that pretty useless as a reviewer. But them saying, there's that expectation nowadays of of its fan culture, where it's everybody's appreciation of something, of celebration, um, and to the point where if you don't like something that they like, it's seen as an attack on that person, versus, I listen to a lot of critics that I really enjoy, and a lot of times they rarely agree. They agree with each other. There's a movie called Licorice Pizza, Paul um, Thomas Anderson movie out, which I know two critics who absolutely love it. It's the best movie they've seen this year, and another two critics who are just like, we hated it, and we hated it for these particular reasons. We think it's really, really, really poorly put together movie. They have an all, and it's like, I respect all four of those critics, um, and they all outline their reasonings why they don't like, why they love the movie or why they don't like the movie. And that's not because, and that's not gonna, that doesn't mean that the people who loved it are crappy critics, or that the people who hate it are crappy critics. It's just, they have different, they've applied their critical lenses to it, and they've come to different conclusions, which is what the great thing about art is that it is rich and it can bring out a lot of different stuff. Somebody might look at Fullness of Time and say this is a late work masterpiece by Kate Wilhelm. I may have completely missed the point of things, and I'm perfectly open. I'm open to that. Also, people might just value different things than I than I value in a story, and so they get a lot more out of it than I did. Also, quite possible. So, but yeah, I still just had that anxiety about releasing that review, which I think has had about one view so far. So I shouldn't worry about it too much. So yeah, I think I might talk about that in my waffle episode, hopefully in a more condensed and entertaining way, because I'm just all about entertaining people. Well, trying to be interesting as I talk, as well as thoughtful at the same time. I can only hope. All right, I have been Jay. More videos later.